Okay, we're back. Let me see. Start filling up the room. Sorry, guys, I had a diamond on my head. And so I wanted to fix that. So we're back. Again, if you guys missed the introduction before, we're doing the part 2 to yesterday's conversation. And I was kind of touching on the difference between attachment and being in love. They're very, very different things. I think that, we talked about it yesterday. Love is an action word. And I think being in love is a reciprocated action. And when you're attached, it's more so a physical thing or just a comfortability. You're with somebody for so long and you become attached. So when you're getting ready to leave, everything is telling you not to because of the attachment, right? So know the difference between the attachment and being in love. Somebody asked me before, have you ever been in love? And I said, no. And he looked at me and I remember it. And he said, wow, that's probably the saddest thing I ever heard. And I was like, I've loved, but I can't say that I've been in love. And I think that being in love is really something unconditional, that the relationships that I have been in the past were attachments or trauma bonds, people that I met when I was going through situations. And once I got out of those situations, I outgrew them, So when it's an attachment, it's not going to last. If it's love and you're in love, then it's more likely to last. So I just wanted to touch on that real quick before I bring Erica on here. And we continue this conversation, but definitely wanted to touch on the difference of being in love and being attached. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. And that, here's our special guest.
Hey!
Hey, girl. Hey. How are you? I'm loving the earrings.
Thank you. Every time I wear these, I get a lot of compliments. So thank you. Let me see. Let me switch these around so they can hang better. But yeah. How was your evening?
It was good. We went to dinner. And then I went to sleep because because I had a little bit of a headache yesterday. Even when we were doing the podcast, I was like, oh man, my head was kind of hurting. I think it was like a little migraine. I just been moving for like the past couple weeks. So today I just sat still, did some homework because I've been messing around and I'm way behind. But it was really, really good. I got to eat some of my favorite food and see some of my favorite people and, think about this podcast and what else that we can give while, speaking on this topic.
Yay. Yeah. I've been thinking about it too. So it was some things that came to mind when said, hey, let's do a part 2. I was like, oh, cool. Because you always think of things after, like, oh
Yeah.
man, I should have said this or I should have said that. So I'm definitely excited to be back to share some more. I think it went extremely well yesterday, and I hope that people were able to, walk away with just some things to think about. As our favorite mentor says, get you to prick your brain to get you to think on your own. And so I hope that we are able to accomplish that again today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. So I think where we left off, it was getting really juicy, right?
Very, very juicy. Very
um we were talking about how to leave,
mm,
right? We had already kind of gone through, getting to that point, right? What the red flags are, what the yellow signs are, things like that, and the toxicity that comes along with some relationships, right? And
Right.
how to leave those as well. And I kind of wanted to dig a little bit deeper into that too, because I think a lot of young people are in those situations and sometimes don't know how to get out, you know? And so I really wanted to touch on that because I think that people in those situations, like I said, are attached, they're comfortable, they've never been there, so they don't know how to navigate the situation. So being that you've had experience there, how do you leave? How do you leave? We touched on it a little bit, making sure that you have your support circle and things like that. But how do you prepare yourself mentally and emotionally for that detachment?
And that, I'm telling you, that is such a great question. One thing about it is, like I said, and you can tell, I talked about it yesterday, your internal GPS system, just like how it works in a car. You put in what, where you're going, and it'll guide you where to go. But what we sometimes don't do is trust where it's taking us. And so we might even have an idea. Well, I already know where this place is. So I know you have a certain direction, but I'm going to go my way because, I know where it's at. But a lot of times the internal GPS, or your internal GPS, is guided by a higher power who knows what you don't know. And it knows what's ahead, in the way, or block, or traffic, whatever. It knows it. And so it's going to guide in the best way for you to go. But a lot of times it's not going to take the quick route.
Yeah.
It's not going to, it's going to take you around the corner, up the hill, down the back. Like, you're going to go through so many different twists and turns, and you're like, I just want to get there. Yeah. And you're like, I want to go from A to B in 2.5 seconds. And it's like, no, I need to take you this route because I don't need you in the same situation again. If I get you out of this situation, and I need people to like go with me where I'm going, again, I'm speaking in a more spiritual way, because again, if you miss it and you don't learn what you need to learn in this situation, sometimes maybe an answer has not come because you won't sit long enough to listen as to what to do. Yeah. Because I guarantee you might have been talking to somebody, you might have seen something that was giving you little ideas or just things to think about. Yeah. And you just kind of pushed it to the side. And so if we can learn how to sit and be still and say, okay, and hopefully and prayerfully, it's not an abusive situation where, there's physical things going on. And so as long as it's not like that, then sit in it for a second and say, okay, what do I need to do? I want to leave. If the person, is not willing to, maybe go to counseling or whatever to try to, work things out, and you no longer are willing to do what's necessary, then it really should be a no-brainer. But you spoke about prior to putting me on that sometimes when there's an attachment, you can't seem to let go because you're thinking, oh, well, it's almost like you feel like you owe that person. Well, they came to me when I was, down and distraught. Right. Y'all might be bonding over, trauma, certain things, certain situations, whatever, right? Maybe they got out of a abusive relationship or whatever. And so y'all are basically comparing notes. And so you're thinking, well, I can't leave them like that, because that was another thing you mentioned. when you leave and you start to work on you, because that's what women do.
Yep.
You're now thinking about the other person, like, oh my God, what about them? You can't do that.
Yeah.
If they're not willing to move with you, I spoke about it yesterday when you're talking about your circle. Your circle could also have your partner in it.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're not moving with you, if you're not moving as a unit, you got to sever that tie.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna be careful when I say this, because if you're married, that's a little different. You can't just walk up and leave. You
Right.
can't do that, especially when there's children involved and all that other stuff. There's a certain way you have to do that. I think when you're married, you have to make sure that you do your due diligence in that marriage and not just leave because, oh, well, I'm just sick of this. Because a lot of times it's not necessarily them. What we tend to do is not check ourselves and say, what is my part in this? If this is no longer working, there's a reason for that. And 9 times out of 10, matter of fact, I'm going to say 10 times out of 10, there's some involvement that you had. It's not always the other person. And then too, like I said, it might be, time for you to grow because you've gotten too comfortable. And it's nothing wrong with being someone who wants to grow with you. But again, if the growth stops and you're inside of a marriage, you got to be careful of how you just, well, I'm getting a divorce and I'm leaving. Be careful of that. So I would just say you have to seek wise counsel. Like I said, for people who have a, strong spiritual base, I don't know, maybe that might include having a counseling session. If you don't want to go that spiritual route, you want to get a neutral party, then do that. But, get some wise counsel that you trust.
Keyword wise, ladies, not just your friends who are going to yes, ma'am.
Wise counsel, because you don't want to get people who are going to jump on your bandwagon of, girl, ain't no way I would deal with that. And you need to leave. And no. Right. Because sometimes you need to stay in it. Sometimes.
Yeah.
So we get to the point where we're just
nobody knows your situation.
Yeah. We're just so agitated.
We tend to vent. We use our friends as a source to, let it all out. But we have to be careful about that too, because when we vent our problems to our friends, it makes them look at our partner differently when we're the ones who said through thick and thin. They're not going to like him after the first mistake, right? Oh, he's no good for you. You know what I mean? But if there's really love there, you have to be able to determine, what's worth it and what's not. And for me, you had brought up the spirituality, right? I am my own confidant. I don't look for advice from other people because, like I said, they don't know my situation. They don't know my feelings about it. They don't know the experiences that we've had. You know what I mean? Like, I listen to me when it comes to that. I will talk to people who have been through similar experiences to see how they've navigated it. But at the end of the day, I listen to me. I sit in silence. I talk to myself. My feelings about it, they don't know the experience. I know how to speak to me, right? And I know that the inner me knows what's best for me because I'm the one experiencing it, right? And I can't hear myself with all the outside noise, And it's like, if you have people coming in from every direction and you just kind of lose yourself, and that's where you're just like, oh, I don't know what to do. It's kind of like a menu. You got too many options. You don't know what to pick. So you've got all these inputs from everybody else except for you. So, and to me, that's a spiritual thing because, as you know, we are gods, right? So the inner me, and when that happens and you speak to yourself and you allow yourself to think, it's like you're really just, what's the word I'm looking for? When your intuition.
Mhm.
Your intuition starts to speak, right? You listen carefully, and you're able to make wise decisions off of that, I think. So I think you really just got to sit in silence sometimes.
Yeah.
Really just sit in silence.
Yeah.
And sometimes the answers will just come.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Slow down long enough.
I did also want to touch on, when you are getting ready to leave, how do those conversations look with yourself? What are the type of questions that you should be asking yourself? Because I think a lot of the times too, when people are in a toxic situation, that they tend to look at the problem and dwell on the problem, and um it's just so chaotic that it's hard to stay focused on what's important. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that you have to, oh man, I lost my train of thought. Pick me up, Erica.
So let me touch on that. The conversation really needs to go, first of all, before you leave, you got to have a plan.
Yes. There it is.
You can't just pick up and go. You don't want to, because you want to be equipped with your next moves. Yes. And not necessarily, oh, I'm going to go stay with my mom. I'm going to go stay with, whoever. Right? Yeah. We're not doing that. Even especially if there's children involved. You got to be strategic about that. Mm-hmm. That's why I said, don't be so in a rush unless it's a volatile situation, and there may be some life-threatening things happening. That's different. Yeah. But if it's a situation where you can, get a plan together and make your exit strategy, you don't have to announce it. And that's where a lot of times women go wrong, is they start talking. And because you don't know how that man is going to receive it. Yeah. Sometimes he might not be willing to let go. And it's not because he's so in love with you. It's because you talked about it earlier. It's because of that attachment. Mm-hmm. And that because as was actually one of the questions that someone had asked, how do you let go when the other person doesn't want to? You can't determine it based off of that. Like I said, if it's a marriage, that's different, because like I said, there's things that you have to do, your due diligence, before you just check out and leave. Because if you don't, like, and really with any situation, you got to learn the lesson. Mm-hmm. You don't want to have to repeat this same thing with a different person. So learn whatever lesson is in it. If it's not working, it's okay. It doesn't even have to be. And I love how you spoke about it yesterday, that when you leave, you have to leave calm. Yes. Because when you're calm, you're not making these rash decisions. Right. You're not throwing stuff. You're not having to people out, punching people. Yeah, you're not having to do furniture. That. If you're able to have an adult conversation, a grown man, grown woman conversation, then that's the best way to do it. Yeah. But if you know that you want to leave and that person doesn't, I would check with yourself first. If you're the one that wants to leave and they don't, check with yourself again to see if, okay, what is this connection? Because is it love or is it not? And again, we spoke about love. Love isn't supposed to hurt, not in that manner. Right. You're supposed to, it doesn't cause pain in the way that it happens. Mm-hmm. If you're being called out of your name, if you're, you're agitated, like you don't get agitated by the girl at the store or at work or what, you know what I'm saying? You're not agitated by them. But when you get home with me, you're short, or vice versa. Women, we're short with him, but we're not short with the people out in the street. Right. Like something's wrong with that. Yeah. This is is a person that you decided to get with. They weren't picked for you. You picked them. So what changed?
Ooh, that's good, because that's where you have to ask yourself those important questions. Why am I acting this way? Why am I really, or what's really the dissatisfaction? Because a lot of times I think we find ourselves nagging and frustrated and irritated, and we just use our partner as a punching bag, kind of, and before you know it, you're just arguing for no reason and you don't even know what you're upset about. Right. So it's like, you know what, talk to yourself, ask yourself the questions. You know what, why am I upset like that? Why am I acting like this? What do I want to change? And really get to the root of the problem. And that's where the proper communication comes into play. Because if you're just nagging at each other and frustrated, you're never going to get to the solution. And if you don't get to the solution, then it's going to turn toxic.
Yeah. And then it's going to get ugly from there. There's no reason why, if it is agreed upon to go separate ways, it's no reason why you can't separate and still be on amicable terms. I'm not saying y'all got to keep in communication, that y'all got to break bread and do all that stuff. Now, if there's children involved, that's different. But if not, there's no reason for that. So you should be able to go your way and I go my way and we're good. Because if you don't leave the right way, it's going to happen again with a new person. Exactly. And then you got to think, well, if it's still happening, was it really them? Because a lot of times we don't want to point the finger at ourselves. We always want to find other things or other people to blame on why we're where we're at. Ooh, you are the only person who is in control of you.
Ooh, that is so powerful. I actually wrote a note down on that. Hold on, let me find it. Yes. I said, when you blame other people, when you can't take accountability, you're giving that person power over you. Because what you're basically saying is, I'm doing this because of them. What are you doing because of you? And then it's always going to be because of them. Oh, well, I came back because of them. Oh, well, they wouldn't let me leave. Well, they said that I was never going to find anybody. They said that it was going to be difficult. It is.
Yeah. So because you said it.
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
You can't blame the other person all the time, because you're making yourself the victim is what it is. So we kind of got to get out of that. We got to, that's just the accountability.
Yeah.
The accountability part.
And accountability is almost like a cuss word. You know, I'm serious. It's like calling somebody the B word. What? You know,
they don't like
nobody wants to do that because that's the ugly work. And you know, I've shared my story many times, how mean and evil I was. And it's because of, I allowed my behavior to change because of what other people were doing to me. And regardless of whether somebody treats you right or not, it should never get to the point where you change you. Because if you're already a sweet person, it shouldn't matter. Now, what may happen is you may become more aware and more wise, but you're still that same sweet person.
Yeah.
So nothing should really change that drastically when, people come against us or whatever. But it's not until you do the ugly work that you're going to start to see things different. Sometimes we may be on a job and you're like, I got to find me another job. I just don't like it here. Well, honestly, it's not that job. It's not the job. If the job is getting on your nerves, if your boss is coming to you, and what you think is nagging, it's not that. Sometimes it might be because you need to grow. You're too immature. Because when you get to a level of maturity, and we have the discussion of getting to the top floor, right? Getting to that above ground level. Because when you're up here, you're not paying attention to the stuff that's down here, because it's not at your level. So why are you paying attention to it?
Yeah.
We got greater things to do and accomplish than to be concerned about little things that are really there to be a nuisance.
Right.
You know, if you and a lot of times I think we get that way because we're not operating in our purpose. Because I promise you, when you're doing the things that you love to do, you're not thinking about that stuff. Your world is you. It's like you're in another world when you're operating how you're supposed to.
It really is. And I think about that too. And I'm sure you do too. You're just like, man, I remember when I used to do that.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful I'm here.
Yeah.
I look at people in situations and I never judge because I've been there, right? And I think that, you know, when you've been there and you see other people, there's more empathy and compassion. But I just, yeah, I remember being there, and I'm super, super grateful for growth and and change and transformation and God and the whole nine, because boy, the path that I was on, man, I'm grateful to be alive today. Let's just say that.
Oh yeah. I'm with you on that. I am with you on that. And I think part of you just touched on it a little bit, a part of leaving the right way is to, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, is having that support. Because when you can be in environments where you can grow, where you can have someone speaking into you, because a lot of times people on the outside could see your situation better than you can. But at the same time, like I said, you got to get that wise counsel, somebody that you trust, who is not going to condemn you, is not going to look down on you, who's not going to bash you and talk crazy and all that time. You don't need that. You already in that situation. You need somebody who's going to love you.
Like, oh, well, I told you so.
Yeah. You really don't want to hear those words. Those are nasty words too. Those are like cuss words.
Right.
But you want to be in a loving environment where you're allowed to just be yourself. And I think that's what happens when you get into a relationship and you're not allowed to be yourself.
Yes.
So you start to change and be how they want you to be. And here you are on the inside growing resentment because that ain't really what you want to do.
Right.
You don't really want to have to operate like that. You know, if you're the type of person that, you know, you might be, I don't know, you might like athletics, right? You might like working out, but they don't. And so you're wanting a workout partner, and who better to have a workout partner with than the person you're with, right? And so they are not wanting to do that, but you want them to. And so you're seeing yourself, your body's coming together, you're eating right, you're doing all this stuff, and you're looking at them like you're not even excited anymore because they don't want to move.
Yeah. No ambition.
And it's like, why am I with you? So now your mind is like, why am I even with you? Because you don't even do what I like. Yeah. But you somehow got to that point of saying, yeah, let's get together. So something caused you to go that route.
Well, I think what happens too is that, you know, it's like when you get with somebody because you find common ground, right? You really like the person. And then, you know, you're together for a few years or 5 years or something like that. And people grow. That's what people do. And I think in relationships, you know, over time, people definitely grow. People are always growing. And that's why love is a commitment. It's a commitment to love you through those ups and downs and to support you through your growth and things like that. So even if that person didn't work out, support her. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Oh, dang, baby, you look good. Ooh. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I'm not the workout type. Maybe I'll go play some basketball or something. You know what I mean? Like, but there's ways around those things, and it's the lack of effort in those situations that really brings the turmoil to the relationship. It's just like you have a partner for support, and if you're not getting the support, then why have the partner?
Yeah.
And I think
Wow.
that's where we go wrong when we start to grow apart. And rather than loving the person through it, it's like we begin to resent them because they're not what we need. And that's where we're selfish, super selfish. And we got to be mindful of that. We really do. And a lot of people, you know, it's like close proximity breeds contempt, you know? And because of that, the familiarity allows you to act different sometimes, you know, because you're so used to this person maybe being submissive or obedient, and then all of a sudden they're not. And you're just like, well, hold on.
Yeah.
What's going on here? I don't like this. Yeah. And then you catch an attitude.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to ask you a question. And that is when, because you just touched on it a second ago. Come back to me. You just touched on it a second ago. About the resentment.
Yeah.
Come back to me. This is funny. But like you said, when you're with someone and you're growing and they're not, and the support is not there, then and the resentment starts to grow.
Yes.
And I think sometimes what happens is it's because really there, you know, sometimes people say that there's no manual to, you know, being in a relationship, but I think it is. Well, I'm not going to say I think, I know it is. But we kind of wing it. We wing it.
Can I have it?
Yeah, we're winging it. You know, we get into these relationships and we wing it. So how do we get the conversation going, or just the education on how to be in a loving, healthy relationship?
Yeah. Well, I think that you kind of touched on that yesterday. When you get with somebody, you have to be two whole beings, right? Um, and and through that, supporting each other, because nobody is perfect. Everybody's gonna make mistakes, right? But we have to support each other through whatever it is that we go through, the ups, the downs. I think that the resentment starts to build up in relationships when the balance is off, when there's the alignment is off, when you're not getting what you want. You know, it's like I said, it's like you really want things so badly to be what you want them to be. But a part of being in a relationship is compromise and meeting each other in the middle. You know, that way you know that there's effort coming from both sides, and that's the reciprocation taking place. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people don't know what that is. A lot of people just, you know, they want what they want, and they're not able to communicate their needs. And so it's important to have a partner who's on the same page as you, especially when it comes to communication, because being open and vulnerable with your partner will allow the alignment to come back into play. You know, because we may be in different places, and if you don't know where my head is at and I don't know where your head is at, then we're just bumping heads, you know. And it's like, well, you know what, if we would have had a conversation about this, if we would have communicated, then I would have known how to support you better. I would have known that, you know, this is something that you were dissatisfied with, or, you know, something along those lines. It's just, you know, you have to, that's what I'm saying, communication. Communication. It can solve so many things. And I think that nowadays people have such an ego, and it's hard to set that aside to really have those conversations. And that boils down to trust too, because you don't trust this person to be vulnerable enough to have the necessary conversations. Rather, you build the walls up, you put the blocks up, and you expect somebody to crawl over them and get mad when they don't. Listen, boo, if you push me away, if you put a wall up, I'm out. Like, I love you, but I love me too. And me climbing that wall to get to you, I don't want to do it. I want
Yeah.
you to be open with me. I don't want to be a resentful, bitter, nagging person trying to get your attention.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that brings me to a question for you, though, unless you
Sure.
had something else you wanted to continue.
Oh, no, go ahead.
How does a person maintain their self-esteem and their confidence throughout the process?
Oh, that's juicy. It begins with yourself. It's, you mentioned it yesterday, self-awareness. You know, like I said, I'm finna throw this plug again. We get on a call, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, on the East Coast, it's 6 a.m. Hello, the West Coast. I'm sorry, the West Coast. Oh, by the way, I am from Sacramento too. So, hey, but 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 a.m. West Coast time. But we get on this call, and it is a call to align you with yourself, your higher self, so that you're able to flow, you know, mentally, spiritually, socially, you know, in every area of your life. And at the end of those calls, we do what we call beautiful self-talk. Now, a lot of people know them as affirmations, and we call it beautiful self-talk because it's a beautiful conversation you're having with yourself. When you get up in the morning, excuse me, when you get up in the morning, before you do anything, when you crawl out that bed, or before you crawl out the bed, before you pick up your phone, you need to be thanking the creator above that he tapped you on your shoulder to even give you the unction to go to the bathroom.
Yep.
Right? The fact that you have breath in your body, you say thank you, you give your gratitude, you give out love to other people, give it to yourself, give it to people who you don't like, who you think don't like you, whatever it is, but you become love. So you have to be the very thing that you want. You have to be it. And so we go through these affirmations or beautiful self-talk, and you know, you can create your own, but you're basically telling yourself how you feel about you. Yep. You are beautiful. You are loved. You are a creator. You are chosen. You are, you know, whatever you want to throw in there.
Yeah.
But have a beautiful conversation with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, you know, when you're going through the process, is telling yourself that it's going to be okay. Yeah. Really look at yourself in the mirror when you say this too, and look into your own eyes. Get into the depths of your own soul. Really get to that subconscious and have a real ass conversation with yourself about it. Because at that point, I think your greatest support has to be you. Like, yes, you've made the decision, right? And now you're going through it. And as you're going through it, you knew when you made the decision that it was going to be hard. You knew that when you made the decision that your heart was going to ache. You knew when you made the decision that there was going to be no contact. So be your biggest supporter. And when you look at yourself and you have those conversations, I'm worthy. I am worthy of a love that that God has promised to me. I am going to get through this. I am strong. I am a warrior. I am beautiful. I am a gem. I am valuable. Really, really talk to yourself like that. I mean, like if you were pumping up your best friend, you go, girl. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that people may think that it's silly, you know, but when you do it and you do it with emotion, it really, really makes a difference.
So I want to challenge every person who's going to see this, whether you are in a situation where you want to leave or you know things just aren't going good. But I want you to do what she just said and go look in the mirror. As a matter of fact, when this is done, this call is done, go look in the mirror and just stand there for about 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and just stand there. Don't say anything, but just stand there and look directly at your reflection. I promise you, if you do it right, you are going to have a waterfall.
Oh my God.
You're going to have a waterfall. I promise you.
Yep.
Because if you're, like you said, look into the depths of your soul. Do you know how deep that is? You have to get beyond all this nasty stuff that is at the top layer.
Yeah.
All the stuff that you're allowing to pile at the top. I need you to go deep. Mm-hmm. And when you stand there and look at yourself, I promise you, every emotion, everything that you're feeling, all the things that you think are issues are going to point right back at you. Because like I said, you're the common denominator. Because what you don't want to have happen is when you do leave this situation, or after you do the work, you might not be supposed to leave. They might need to see a better you. Yeah. Because you just haven't been a nice person. So imagine if they get a better version of you. Because sometimes when you operate in the highest level of yourself, it allows people to do the same thing. Yes. Because maybe in their world, they never saw that. But now that you're here, which might be the lesson, show them what love is supposed to look like. Because if they don't know and you do, that's your job to teach them.
Yep. And I think that's so important because that plays a huge role in how you leave. And I think we touched on that a little bit, but I think that you should always be who you are and don't allow the situation or the person to bring you out of who you really are. And I think that when you leave with love and grace and humility, that it makes a difference. You know what I mean? When someone looks back, they're still going to have respect for you because you didn't make yourself look like a fool when you left.
Yeah.
You walked out gracefully.
Yeah.
And love. Who does that? How many people do you know do that these days? I hear so many people who stay and stay and stay until it's so toxic. And, you know, everybody's just arguing and it's like, it's a bad situation, but I think that the quicker we realize, you know what, this really isn't for me. And we've had conversations and we've talked about solutions and nothing's really making a difference. There's no change, right? So then we have to come to the decision that, you know what, this really isn't working. And we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be real with ourselves and we have to stop living in a fairy tale story, right? Like, oh, well, I love this person and I really, really want it to work. Well, that's great that you love this person and you can love them from afar too.
Yeah. Yeah. It is okay not to, and I want to make sure that I say this part. And that is a lot of times, like I said, I think I touched on a little bit yesterday. A lot of times when there's children involved, especially for the woman, she doesn't want to let go.
Yeah.
If those children are by that man, she does not want to let go. Girl, it's like, no, we got to make this
nothing
work.
left to hold on to.
And it's like you can't lose yourself so much that you are willing to sacrifice those children for the man.
And we think that we're doing the right thing when in all reality, it's hurting the kids.
I had an eye-opening situation where my children told me when I finally got to a point of leaving, was in a relationship for a long time. I knew I should have left that relationship a long time ago. I knew it. But I kept saying the way I justified it was, oh, well, the children, they won't be able to, adjust when we leave because, I knew that they loved them and everything. And they were still good with them. Even though we weren't getting along, they were still good.
Right.
And I justified staying by saying, well, they're not going to make it. They're going to be so distraught. And like all these excuses came into my mind. And when I finally got to the point of letting them know, hey, listen, we're leaving. I know you guys still love him. I'm not saying that you have to, not communicate and all that. You do what you do, but I don't want to be a part of it. You know what they said? They said, it's about time.
Ooh, girl.
And I was like, what?
Yeah.
They were waiting on me. It never changed their love for him, but they were waiting on me because they knew I was not who I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
I made a decision for them. And that's something we have to stop doing, is thinking that our children aren't going to get over it. Children get over things quicker than we do.
And I think that when you're open with them too, it prepares them for real life. Look, we've done this, we've done that, we tried, it didn't work. Rather than them seeing mom and dad together and then all of a sudden you're not, like, you prepare them for real life because they're going to go through the same thing. And maybe if we pass our wisdom on, it doesn't have to be so difficult and they won't have to endure as long as we did.
Right. With children, just like with Christmas, right? You get all excited. You buy them all these great, wonderful toys, and they have a great relationship with it in the beginning because it's new. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing you know, you don't see that toy. And you're asking them, well, where is it? Oh, I don't know. They ain't even tripping.
Yeah. My kids actually told me that they like me better as a single person because I was that person too. I stayed in a relationship for like 8 years, and the last 4 were just like roommates. And he didn't want to leave either. I ended up having to, after a year of not being together, waiting for him to move out, I had to go and get my own apartment. I was just like, I can't do this no more. Like, I just had to get up and dip. But they told me that I'm so much happier. I'm so happy, and the peace in my home, the harmony, like when we hear, drama from other people's situations, we're like, whoa, like we feel bougie, like we don't do that over here. You know what I mean? It's just like, and it's a good place to be, and it feels that my kids see the difference in me, and it feels good to know that but yeah, I was able to show them something, through what I've been through. And, my daughters are teenagers, they're dealing with boyfriends and stuff. And so I'm able to see them navigate those relationships and with confidence and valuing themselves. And so, you a lot of people, well, some people don't like when their kids see things, right? They're like, they do their best to hide it. And I think that that's a great idea. But at the same time too, like I said, them seeing it, them seeing me navigate it, them seeing the end result, I think has helped not just me grow, but them grow too. And that's important when you're dealing with kids and in situations like this. It's just making sure that they're prepared for real life and real situations. And I when it comes to their father and things like that, I don't sugarcoat our experience, but I do also tell them, like, you know what, this is who he was when we were together. And it's not to say that he wasn't a good friend or a good person, he just wasn't a good partner for me. And I don't want my experience to taint your thoughts or your relationship that you could possibly have with them. So making sure that I'm open with them and just really honest, I think for me has been tremendous for them and their growth too, in raising them.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, mine did me the same way. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, we love you now. Like there was a
So
time when
good.
my children did not like me
Yeah, I can relate.
because I just and I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all.
Right.
But now they're like, yeah, we love this version of you.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I don't sugarcoat nothing anymore
Yeah.
because I don't want them to be caught by surprise or enduring in situations longer than they need to
Mm-hmm.
because that's what I did.
Yeah.
And so now, like you said, they're equipped and they know what to do. Like I said, when you heal, you give other people the permission to do the same thing
Mm-hmm.
because they say, oh, well, mommy did it, so I'm going to do it too.
Yeah.
It worked for her,
Yeah.
so I'm going to do it too.
Yep.
And so we have to get to a point where we're, like you said, real with ourselves and in turn allowing, I think when you're real with yourself, that's when the answers start coming.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever direction you need to go, whether you need to leave or whether you need to stay, the answers will start coming when you're real with yourself.
Yep.
Because I'm telling you that it's not going to be easy. Like you said, leaving a situation is never easy,
Right.
especially when you think that there's love there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want that person to, go through any hurt, harm, or danger or anything.
Right.
And you're trying to figure out the nicest way to do it. Well, there isn't.
Yeah.
You just have to you just have to let it go and be what it's going to be. But, and one thing I did want to touch on real quick that you mentioned is that when we're in relationships, you don't want to push yourself onto them.
Oh my gosh.
To the
greatest
point
way to push them
that,
away.
yeah, you're pushing your views, you're pushing your ways, and you're pushing it. That's not how it should be.
Yeah.
I should be able to exist as who I am. You should be able to exist as who you are. And I believe that if there's things that we encounter where we need to make some adjustments, that's where the communication comes.
Yeah.
So don't have an expectation for me and not communicate it and then get mad when it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. Like, we're smart, but we're not that smart.
I think
it's like you were supposed to know that. It's like, come on, are you serious?
You said something profound about, when you're pushing yourself onto people. And I think towards the end, when people have an attachment, they do everything that they can to kind of scramble to hold on, and they do these things that, just like you said, pushing yourself onto them, right? And then people don't realize that when you do that, it's like a desperate energy. Mm-hmm. And a desperate energy is a turnoff.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to fix a problem, fix the problem. Don't push yourself onto me. It's like one of those, what did I say yesterday? Giving somebody more what they already don't appreciate.
Yeah.
Now you're getting annoying.
Yeah.
Right? Like, get up off me, right? Like, I'm trying to leave. And people, they don't realize that when they do that they're making it worse. Mm-hmm. That's why I said how you leave is important. Leave with grace, leave with humility, leave with your dignity intact. It makes a difference in the long run. And I think that the way that you leave speaks volume about who you are and your characteristics and your standards and your values. So mm-hmm. I think that when you are ready to leave, make sure you keep that in mind and stop trying to force things that ain't gonna work. Yeah. And I think that we do that a lot, especially toxic relationships. When there's healthy people, that usually doesn't happen. When you're in something toxic or an attachment, and that just, to me, that just yells trauma, like attachment issues,
Mhm.
right? Like, I can't let you go, I can't lose you, I've lost everybody else, like, please don't leave.
Yeah.
I think that that's where that kind of comes from, and I know that because I've been there.
Mhm.
It's just like that feeling like you just, I can't be without you, like I need you type of thing. And then and it's just like you're with somebody who's already done with you, who's already just like so then when you're clawing and doing all that, it's no longer attractive because they don't even want you. It's attractive when they want you, they want people who want them, but once they don't want you, it's a wrap, baby.
It's a wrap.
Give up. Let it go. Let it go.
Break free. I would, that's good that you said that, is not to fight it.
Mm-hmm.
When it's time to go, let it go. Because the sooner you can let it go, the sooner the healing can begin.
Yes.
And especially if there's years involved, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to need that time.
Yeah.
And before you go and jump into another relationship, you have to give yourself time, because it's not fair to the new person coming along to have to carry all of that baggage that you just left.
Yep.
And I'm not going to put a time limit and say, oh, you need a year, you need 2 years, you need 6 months. That depends on you, because the sooner you can start doing the work, it might be 30 days. Because when you the thing is, and what people misunderstand, is that working on yourself is continuous.
Yes.
You never stop. The moment you stop, that means you have no more breath in your body. That's when you stop working on yourself. But until that day comes, you better work every day to make sure you are the best person that you can be. Always do your best.
Yeah.
Always. Because you want people to get the full gamut of who you are. So that you when you allow things to naturally flow, you don't have to chase anybody. You don't have to, run behind, beg. You don't have to do that.
Right.
It'll come. And trust me, when you start working on you, guess what? They want to circle the block. Because they're going to say, oh, I like the new you.
Right. Upgrade.
Oh, okay. Okay. She done started working out, or he's done this. You all of a sudden, now you're like, you look good now. You're attractive now, because you have put your time and energy into yourself, which is what you should always do anyway. I don't care who you're with. If you're married, make sure you're reinventing yourself every single day. Because if you talk about being with somebody till death do you part, hopefully that's going to be some years down the road. You got to make sure that you are making yourself better, so that that person is not tempted to go look at somebody else. Mm-hmm. I think I just said something right there.
Yes, you did.
You do not want to give a person a reason to go look elsewhere if you're doing the work, which is every day. Yeah. If you're giving of yourself every day, because that's who you are. Mm-hmm. It's hard to let go of that. Yeah. It's hard to let go of something that's good. Mm-hmm.
It sure
is. The more you work on yourself, the more you do that mirror work. And I'm telling you, that mirror work ain't no joke. So if you're not ready for that change, then continue to do you, continue to bump into them walls and all of that, and then you ain't never got to worry about it. But if you truly want to live a better life and to have better things happening for you, you got to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. And yeah, do the work. Do the work. Once you do the work, it's, I think that, when you do the work, it's a form of self-love, right? And they say that if your love isn't appreciated, start pouring that love into you. the love that you want to give somebody else, give it to you. And then once you start um, exhibiting that and results start to come, people are attracted to that, you know, because it's a different energy, that self-love. And then they see how you love you. And then they start to think, wow, if she loves her like that, I wonder how she's going to love me. Because it's probably a love like you ain't never had.
Yeah.
It really is. Because when a woman can love herself, that's powerful.
That's extremely attractive to a man. And sometimes what would happen is, sometimes when we see that something is so good, in the back of their mind, they're like, man, it's got to be something wrong here.
Right.
Like, I know this isn't who she is. But in actuality, it is. Yeah. Because in our true nature, we're loving beings.
We are.
Men and women. It's not just, you know, it's not gender specific. But in our human selves, we naturally love, because that's who we were created to be. But it's because we allow this other stuff to come in, and it starts to change that.
It starts to taint us.
Yeah. And so we lose ourselves. We talked about that yesterday, is losing yourself in a relationship. You should never do that.
Yeah.
I love you, but it should never get to the point where I start to idolize you.
Yeah.
And that sometimes can happen. And so you don't want to start idolizing your partner. Love them, but don't idolize.
Yeah.
And so when you, it is possible to have a good, healthy, loving relationship. It is absolutely possible. When two people are open, and like I said, when you're willing to do what's necessary.
Yeah.
And if there's no fight, you shouldn't have to, you know, oh.
Somebody's at my door. My apologies. All right. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries.
Got home from school. But keep going.
Okay.
It was lit.
But you know, you shouldn't have to have resistance in that relationship all the time.
Yeah.
Or just relationships, period. And the only time you should really have resistance is when it's time to grow. That's it. Not because, you know, nobody can stand the sight of you being around or whatever, because things are just so bad and toxic. No. So we have to continuously be working on ourselves and making sure that we're fostering atmospheres where love can just flow naturally. Yes. Naturally. And you, like you said, you'll start to see stuff come to you, not just people, you know, circles of friends or whatever, but just maybe in business, maybe, you know, in other ways, but your life will be so much better.
Yeah.
You know, just like how we're taught, your heart should be light as a feather.
Yeah.
You should not have things bogging you down. You should not have a bunch of cares of the world that are just bogging you down. Yeah. You should be able to just pretty much glide through this life and not have to be stressed about all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's too much going on to be having that happen.
Yeah.
And we need you around for your children, your grandchildren, their children, and whoever else is coming after that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. I'm so glad that we did a part 2.
This went well.
I think that you know, we were able to touch on a lot of things, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come up here and, you know, spill some sauce like you always do. Bring the heat. Is there anything else? Because I know that you had mentioned at the beginning that there were some things that you wanted to touch on, and I just want to make sure before we end that you've been able to touch on all the points that you were thinking of before we came back.
We absolutely did. I mean, like I said, the main thing I wanted to share is that, like I said, if a person wants to leave, you know, you want to stay, they want to leave, or they want to stay, you want to leave. Don't force anything. Let it be what it is, because if that's happening, it's for a reason and it's not to your detriment. Yeah. And that brings me to one more thing, is not to take it personal, because sometimes you just outgrow people. Yeah. And it's okay. You don't have to, like, man, I'm so glad you said what you said about leaving gracefully, leaving calmly, leaving with your dignity. Why can't we do that? Yeah. That is, you're going to gain so much respect for doing that. And they're going to say, you know what? They're going to respect you and love you even more because of it. And just because you do leave, just because you start working on yourself, and like I said, they're going to circle the block, because it always happens. It never fails. It never fails. Man, I got folks. Never mind. I'm leaving.
She said, hold on.
Never mind. I'm just saying, when you operate in your true, authentic self, people like that, and they're going to circle the block. But you need to keep that block on a circle. Mm-hmm. It's not time to let them in. Unless God comes down from heaven and says, hey, get back with them, then do it. But if that doesn't happen, let them be where they are. Because sometimes when we circle the block, we put ourselves in situations where all that work is null and void. Mm-hmm. We're not doing that. I told you.
10 steps forward to take 20 back.
The cost that it took to get you to the place that you are. You cannot afford to allow people to set you back. Yeah. Again, love them, embrace them, but over there. Right. I wish you and your new boo a loving relationship, but we're done.
Right. And I think too, sometimes people, we talked about it yesterday, that when you do leave with love, it does leave that door open. Because if you choose to leave, it could have just been because you outgrew them, right? Or that your purpose took you somewhere else for that time, but it may bring you back around. And at that time, you may have grown, circumstances may have changed, and things may come into alignment for that relationship. But if it's not, then just keep it pushing. Yeah. But always let it go when you need to.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was powerful.
This was good. Powerful. This was good.
Thank you so much, Erica. We're gonna have to do this again. We're gonna have to do this again. So thank you guys so much for tuning in for part 2. Make sure that you go onto YouTube, like and subscribe. I do have a podcast channel, Beautifully You. It's on my page, but I will also drop it in the comments. You guys, any comments, any questions? I think that this topic is super, super important. And I think, especially for young people, and I welcome the DMs and the messages and, things like that for people who do need support, right? People who are in situations where they're just like, man, I don't know how to get out of this. Please send me a DM. Let me help you. Because there's so many resources, and I'm a resourceful person. So if you don't know how to help you, if you don't have the resources, then reach out to somebody who may have those resources and point you in the right direction. Because if you're in a bad situation, it can always get worse. And I want to make sure that our young people have support that they need to get out of those situations, because I think it's become somewhat of a norm. You got people like Blueface and Krishan over here getting famous for beating each other up. So let's just tell you right now, that's not a healthy thing to do. And allowing yourself to get beat up all the time is not going to make you rich. That don't happen to everybody. So it's just, I want to be a resource for people who need it. And shed a light where it may be dark. And I'm sure Erica feels the same. So if you are friends with Erica on here and you may be in a situation, please reach out to her. Please reach out to me. We are both resourceful people and can definitely help you. We've had experiences and we just want to make ourselves available to those who may be in need. And we continue to pray for people who are in situations that they feel there's no out, or there's no control, or that, you know, they're just stuck, you know. So if you know anybody who needs to see this podcast, please share it. If you know anybody who can benefit from any of the information shared from part 1 or 2, make sure you share it. Like and share the podcast, guys. Erica, please let them know where they can find you if they don't know how to.
So I have a link tree that I will drop in my bio. So definitely, if you're on Facebook, Erica Majors. If you're on Instagram, it's I Am Major Moves. And like I said, I'll put that information in the chat as well. I too will be a resource. And I think we need to get back to being, like you said, resources for our young people so that they are equipped with what to do. We got to get back to that. We got to get back to, you know, being that village, to help each other out. So thank you so much this was so fun. Oh my God. Like this really sparked something in me. And I was just like, I was so excited to get home so I could get this thing going. And so I don't know, you might have sparked something in me to start something myself, or maybe a collaboration. Who knows?
You have so much value and so much wisdom. And, you know, if you do decide to go this route, I support you 1000%, because I think you are just a freaking rock star. You are incredible. And I love, you know, these conversations and being able to have these conversations with women who are always aspiring to be better, who have been in tough situations and who are able to use those as a testimony to help other people. You know, I think that's what this podcast is all about. It's a beautifully you. It's a process of becoming beautifully you. And you really got to embrace it and just figure out your own way to navigate it. And so I hope these podcasts help, man. I hope they help, and I can't wait to see what you come up with. And we're definitely gonna have to collaborate some more, and you know, just really see how we can impact people together.
Absolutely. I'm definitely open to that.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said, like and share, and we will see you next time.
Absolutely.